What is up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Today we are doing something absolutely insane, something I've wanted to do for a long time. We are going to definitively rank the top 10 greatest Call of Duty games ever made. From the very first time we dropped into a war zone to the latest blockbuster release, this franchise has given us some of the most iconic moments in gaming history. I've spent hundreds, maybe even thousands of hours playing these games, and I know you have too. This is going to be the most epic countdown you've ever seen. Now, before we jump in, I want to be super clear about how we made this list. This isn't just my personal opinion, even though I have a lot of those. We looked at everything: the cultural impact each game had, its popularity at launch and beyond, the innovation it brought to the table, and most importantly, what the fans, what you guys, have loved the most over the years. We dug through forums, watched old gameplay, and relived the glory days to create a list that truly represents the best of the best. It was an incredibly tough challenge, but somebody had to do it. But here's the most important part. I want to hear from you. This is a conversation, not a lecture. As we go through this list, I want you to storm the comments section below and tell me what your favorite Call of Duty game is. Do you agree with my number one? Do you think I'm crazy for leaving a certain game off the list? Let me know right now. Drop your favorite code in the comments, and don't forget to smash that like button if you're ready for this. Let's get into it. Kicking off our list at number 10, we have a game that I know is going to be controversial, but hear me out: Call of Duty Ghosts. Released in 2013, as the bridge to a new console generation, Ghosts tried to do a lot of new things. It took a massive risk by moving away from the established Modern Warfare and Black Ops universes, giving us a completely fresh story set in a post-apocalyptic America. It was a bold move, and honestly, it didn't land with everyone, but you have to respect the ambition. The campaign was its biggest selling point for me. The story of two brothers, Logan and Hesh, fighting alongside the elite Ghost unit against a formidable South American federation, was genuinely compelling. And let's be real, who didn't love having Riley, the German Shepherd, as a squad mate? Being able to control a dog in a Call of Duty game was a first, and it was awesome. The missions felt different, from scuba diving through submerged ruins to fighting in the vacuum of space. It was a cinematic experience that pushed the boundaries of what a COD campaign could be. On the multiplayer side, Ghosts introduced some really innovative features that often get overlooked. The dynamic maps, where parts of the environment could be destroyed to change the flow of the game, were a game changer. Remember causing that massive earthquake on the map strike zone? It was epic! It also gave us the Create a Soldier system, which offered a level of character customization we had never seen before in the series, letting you create and personalize up to 10 different soldiers. And we can't forget the new game modes. Cranked was pure, high-octane chaos, forcing you to get a kill every 30 seconds or explode. It was incredibly stressful, but so much fun. Then there was Extinction, a co-op mode that swapped zombies for aliens. It was a refreshing take on the wave-based survival formula, requiring teamwork and strategy to take down massive cryptids. It was a totally different vibe from zombies and a really cool experiment. While Ghosts might not have reached the legendary status of some other titles on this list, it deserves its spot for its willingness to take risks and try new things. It introduced unique ideas, a memorable campaign, and a multiplayer suite that had some hidden gems. It was a game that dared to be different, and for that, it earns the number 10 spot in our ultimate countdown. It walked so that future games could run, and that's a fact. Coming in at number 9 is the game that brought the franchise back to where it all began: Call of Duty WWII. After years of futuristic warfare, jetpacks, and wall running, the community was screaming for a return to classic boots-on-the-ground combat. And in 2017, Sledgehammer Games delivered exactly that. This game felt like a homecoming, a direct response to fan feedback, and it was a massive breath of fresh air that the series desperately needed at the time. The campaign was a huge highlight. It put you in the boots of Private Red Daniels of the 1st Infantry Division and took you on a powerful journey through the European theater. The story was gritty, emotional, and focused on the brotherhood of soldiers. It wasn't about being a one-man army, it was about relying on your squad. The feature where you had to get medkits and ammo from your AI teammates was a fantastic touch that grounded the experience and made you feel like part of a real unit, fighting for survival. The D-Day landing on Normandy Beach in this game is, without a doubt, one of the most intense and cinematic openings to any Call of Duty campaign ever. The sheer chaos, the sound design, the desperation, it was all perfectly captured. It paid homage to films like Saving Private Ryan while creating its own unforgettable moments. From the Battle of the Bulge to the liberation of Paris, the campaign was a visceral and respectful tribute to the greatest generation. Multiplayer was where the boots-on-the-ground mantra truly shined. The gameplay was slower, more tactical, and focused on map control and gun skill. It was a welcome change of pace that rewarded strategy over frantic movement. The introduction of the headquarters social space was also a brilliant idea. It was a place where you could hang out with other players, open supply drops, practice at the firing range, and even watch others compete in 1v1 duels. It made the game feel like a living, breathing community. And let's talk about the war mode. This was the star of the show for multiplayer. It was an objective-based multi-stage mode that pitted teams against each other in iconic WWII battles. You'd be pushing a tank through a village, building a bridge under heavy fire, or storming a bunker to plant a bomb. It was narrative-driven multiplayer that felt like you were part of a larger conflict, and it was absolutely incredible. For bringing the series back to its roots and delivering a polished, powerful experience, WoW easily earns its spot on this list. Sliding into the number 8 spot is the game that took the futuristic formula and cranked it up to 11: Call of Duty Black Ops III. Released in 2015, this game was the pinnacle of the advanced movement era. Treyarch refined the jetpack and wall-running mechanics to create a fluid, fast-paced, and incredibly deep movement system. Chaining together thrust jumps, slides, and wall runs felt like an art form, and mastering it gave you a huge advantage on the battlefield. It was a skill gap that many players absolutely loved. The campaign was one of the most ambitious in the series, designed from the ground up for 4-player co-op. This was a massive change. You and 3 friends could play through the entire mind-bending sci-fi story together. Each level was designed with wider, more open spaces to accommodate multiple players, making for some truly epic cooperative firefights. The story itself was complex, dealing with themes of transhumanism and artificial intelligence, and it had one of the craziest, most talked-about endings in Call of Duty history. Multiplayer introduced specialists, which was a huge shake-up to the classic formula. These were unique characters, each with their own special weapon or ability that you could earn during a match. Whether you were using Outrider's Sparrow Bow to get silent multi-kills, or Ruin's gravity spikes to slam down on a group of enemies, these abilities added another strategic layer to the game. It was like having a mini superpower, and it made for some incredible holy cow moments that you just had to clip. Of course, you can't talk about a Treyarch game without talking about zombies, and Black Ops III delivered in a massive way. The main map, Shadows of Evil, was a sprawling 1940s-inspired noir world filled with Lovecraftian monsters, a complex storyline, and celebrity voice actors. It was one of the most detailed and atmospheric zombies maps ever created. Plus, with the Zombies Chronicles expansion, they remastered 8 classic maps from previous games, making Black Ops III the ultimate zombies package for a lot of fans. Black Ops III was a feature-packed game that offered something for everyone. It had a deep, rewarding multiplayer with a high skill ceiling, a full co-op campaign, and arguably one of the best zombies experiences of all time. It represented the peak of the advanced movement era, and pushed the boundaries of what a Call of Duty game could be in terms of content and gameplay mechanics. It was a bold and futuristic vision that truly paid off. At number 7, we have the explosive finale to one of the greatest trilogies in gaming history, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3. After the insane cliffhanger at the end of MW2, the entire world was waiting to see how the story of Soap, Price, and Makarov would end. And in 2011, Infinity Ward delivered a blockbuster conclusion that was non-stop, high-octane action from beginning to end. World War III had broken out, and you were on the front lines. The campaign was a global tour of destruction and heroism. One minute you're battling through a collapsing Wall Street, the next you're in a firefight in the London Underground, and then you're storming a castle in the Czech Mountains. The scale was absolutely massive. It seamlessly wrapped up all the loose ends from the previous games, giving us some of the most emotional and impactful moments in the entire franchise. The final confrontation between Price and Makarov is a moment that is burned into the memory of every single person who played it. Multiplayer in Modern Warfare 3 was all about refinement. It took the incredible foundation of MW2 and polished it to near perfection. The maps were expertly designed, with fan favorites like Dome, Mission, and Hard Hat becoming instant classics. The gunplay felt tight and responsive, and the weapon balancing was a significant improvement over its predecessor. It was the familiar formula we all loved, just better in almost every way, making it one of the most addictive and replayable multiplayer experiences in the series. One of the best new features was the introduction of strike packages for kill streaks. Instead of one single path, you could now choose between Assault, Support, and Specialist. Assault gave you the classic damage-dealing streaks, but Support streaks didn't reset on death, rewarding objective players with things like UAVs and SAM turrets. The Specialist package was for the true slayers, rewarding consecutive kills with more and more perks until you became a super soldier. This was a genius system that catered to every playstyle, and we can't forget about the co-op Spec Ops mode, which returned with a new survival mode. You and a friend would face off against endless waves of increasingly difficult enemies on the multiplayer maps. It was insanely challenging, incredibly addictive, and the perfect way to spend hours with a buddy. Modern Warfare 3 was the perfect ending to an iconic trilogy, delivering a satisfying story, a polished multiplayer, and a fantastic co-op mode. It was a truly complete package. Breaking into our top half at number 6 is a game that was years ahead of its time. Call of Duty Black Ops 2. Released in 2012, this game was a masterpiece of innovation. Treyarch took a massive gamble by setting the game in two different time periods: the 1980s Cold War and the futuristic world of 2025. This dual timeline approach allowed them to tell an incredibly ambitious and sprawling story centered around one of the best villains in gaming history, Raul Menendez. The campaign was revolutionary. For the first time ever in a Call of Duty game, your choices mattered. Decisions you made in the past missions as Alex Mason would directly impact the future missions as his son, David. This created branching storylines and multiple endings, giving the campaign immense replayability. On top of that, they introduced Strike Force missions, optional RTS-style levels where you could command squads and drones. It was unlike anything the series had ever done before. The multiplayer of Black Ops 2 is, for many players, the absolute pinnacle of competitive Call of Duty. It introduced the Pick-10 Create-a-Class system, a groundbreaking innovation that completely changed how players built their loadouts. You had 10 points to spend on weapons, attachments, perks, and equipment, giving you unprecedented freedom and control. You could ditch your secondary weapon for an extra perk, or load up your primary with attachments. This system was so good that it became the standard for many future COD titles. The introduction of League Play was another game changer. It was a dedicated ranked mode that matched players based on their skill level, creating a truly competitive environment for those who wanted to test their mettle. It was the precursor to the ranked playlists we see in almost every competitive shooter today. Black Ops 2 laid the groundwork for competitive Call of Duty as an esport, and its influence is still felt to this day. The maps like Standoff, Raid, and Hijacked are so beloved that they've been remade multiple times. And of course there's zombies. Black Ops 2 expanded the zombies universe with massive, intricate maps like Transit, which connected multiple locations via a bus, and fan favorites like Mob of the Dead and Origins. These maps pushed storytelling and Easter eggs to a whole new level, creating complex puzzles that the community spent months solving. Black Ops 2 was a visionary game that took risks in every single mode, and nearly all of them paid off spectacularly, cementing its legacy as an all-time great. Cracking our top 5 is the game that brought the legendary Modern Warfare name back to the forefront with a bang. The 2019 Reboot Call of Duty Modern Warfare. This wasn't just a remaster, it was a complete and total reimagining of the series for a new generation. Infinity Ward went back to the drawing board and created a game that felt gritty, realistic, and incredibly immersive. The first time you saw this game in action, your jaw was on the floor. The visuals were, and still are, absolutely breathtaking. The campaign was a raw and unflinching look at modern conflict. It was dark, morally complex, and didn't shy away from controversy. Missions like Clean House, where you methodically cleared a townhouse in the dead of night using night vision goggles, were unlike anything we'd ever experienced in Call of Duty. The tension was unbearable. It felt less like an action movie and more like a tactical simulation. It was a mature and thought-provoking story that brought back Captain Price in a spectacular way. multiplayer was a massive leap forward. The new game engine provided an insane level of realism. The gunsmith feature was a revelation, allowing for an unprecedented amount of weapon customization. You could take a base AK-47 and turn it into a short-barreled SMG or a long-range DMR. The gunplay itself felt weighty and impactful, and the sound design was simply the best in the business. Every gunshot, explosion and footstep was crystal clear, adding to the tactical immersion. This game also gave us Warzone, a free-to-play battle royale that took the world by storm. It dropped players into the massive map of Verdansk and perfected the battle royale formula with unique features like the Gulag, where eliminated players could fight 1v1 for a second chance, and loadout drops which let you bring your custom multiplayer classes into the match. Warzone became a cultural phenomenon and one of the biggest games on the planet, all thanks to the incredible foundation built by Modern Warfare 2019. Modern Warfare 2019 successfully rebooted the most iconic sub-franchise in Call of Duty history. It pushed the boundaries of graphical fidelity and audio design, delivered a gripping and mature campaign, introduced groundbreaking multiplayer features like the Gunsmith, and launched the juggernaut that is Warzone. It was a bold and brilliant return to form that redefined what a modern shooter could be, and it absolutely deserves its high ranking on this list. Storming into the number 4 spot is the darkest, most brutal, and honestly, arguably the most underrated gem in the entire series, Call of Duty World at War. Released in 2008, right after the revolutionary COD4, Treyarch had the impossible task of following up a modern masterpiece. Instead of trying to copy it, they went in the complete opposite direction, taking the series back to World War II, but with a level of grit and horror that had never been seen before. This wasn't your grandfather's 1-2 game, this was a visceral, terrifying depiction of war. The campaign was split between two fronts. You had the American campaign in the Pacific, fighting against a ruthless and fanatical Japanese army, and the Soviet campaign on the Eastern Front, pushing towards the heart of the German Reich. Both were unbelievably brutal. The Pacific missions, with their terrifying bonsai charges and hidden jungle ambushes, were pure nightmare fuel. The Soviet missions, culminating in the planting of the flag over the Reichstag, were filled with a sense of raw vengeance and desperation. It was, honestly, a powerful and unforgettable story. This game gave us iconic characters that would become legends in the Black Ops series. It was our first introduction to Sergeant Viktor Reznov, a character whose charisma and quest for revenge would drive the narrative for multiple games to come. The voice acting, with Gary Oldman as Reznov and Kiefer Sutherland as Sergeant Roebuck, was phenomenal and brought an incredible level of gravitas to the story. World at War laid the narrative foundation for the entire Black Ops saga. Multiplayer was fantastic, taking the core mechanics of COD4, like perks and create a class, and applying them to a 1-2 setting. The maps were gritty and well-designed, and the weapons felt powerful and authentic. But the biggest innovation was the introduction of vehicles in certain maps. Being able to drive a tank and blast through enemy lines added a whole new dimension to the gameplay. It was chaotic, it was fun, and it set World at War's multiplayer apart from its predecessor. But the most important, most legendary contribution of World at War was something they added almost as an afterthought, a bonus mode unlocked after completing the campaign. That mode was called Nacht der Untoten, Nazi Zombies. This simple wave-based survival mode against undead horrors would go on to become a pillar of the Call of Duty franchise, spawning its own massive storyline and a dedicated community of millions. For introducing zombies to the world and for its brutally brilliant campaign, World at War was, without a doubt, an undisputed legend. Claiming the bronze medal at number 3 is the game that took the grit of World at War and plunged it into the shadowy world of Cold War espionage Call of Duty Black Ops. Released in 2010, this game had an almost impossible amount of hype to live up to, following the phenomenon that was Modern Warfare 2. Treyarch didn't just meet the hype, they shattered it by creating one of the most compelling and mind-bending stories in video game history. The campaign is an absolute masterpiece. You play as Alex Mason, a CIA operative strapped to a chair, being interrogated about a series of mysterious numbers. The story unfolds through his fractured memories, taking you on a globe-trotting journey from the jungles of Vietnam to a Soviet gulag in Vorkuta. The plot twist at the end is one of the most iconic and well-executed twists in all of gaming. It was a psychological thriller that stayed with you long after the credits rolled. The numbers, Mason, what do they mean? Is a line that every gamer knows. Multiplayer was a huge step forward. It introduced the COD point system, where you earned currency to buy whatever weapons, attachments, and perks you wanted, rather than just unlocking them linearly. This gave players so much more freedom. It also introduced wager matches, where you could gamble your COD points in fun, unique game modes like One in the Chamber and Sticks and Stones. And who could forget creating your own custom emblem and player card? The level of personalization was off the charts. The maps in Black Ops are legendary. Nuketown is arguably the most iconic and beloved map in Call of Duty history, a tiny, chaotic battlefield that guaranteed non-stop action. Firing Range, Summit, and Jungle are all-time classics that are still celebrated today. The gunplay was fantastic, with a huge variety of weapons that all felt unique and fun to use. From the Galil to the Commando, the arsenal in Black Ops is just unforgettable. It was a perfectly balanced and endlessly fun multiplayer experience. And then there's zombies. Black Ops took the foundation from World at War and turned it into a full-fledged phenomenon. Maps like Kino der Toten with its abandoned German theater became the quintessential zombies experience for millions. The mode was packed with personality, introducing the iconic crew of Richthofen, Dempsey, Nikolai, and Takeo. The story, the Easter eggs, the wonder weapons like the Thunder Gun, it all came together to create an incredibly deep and replayable mode. For its legendary campaign, innovative multiplayer, and iconic zombies, Black Ops is easily one of the greatest of all time. In the runner-up spot at number 2, we have the game that changed everything. The one that redefined the first-person shooter genre and set the standard for every single game that followed. I'm talking, of course, about the one and only Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare. In 2007, when every other shooter was stuck in World War II, Infinity Ward took a massive risk and brought the series into the modern day. This decision didn't just change Call of Duty, it changed the entire landscape of gaming forever. The campaign was a cinematic revolution. It was a tight, perfectly paced, and incredibly intense experience that felt like a playable Hollywood blockbuster. It gave us some of the most iconic characters in gaming history, like the legendary Captain Price and the stoic John Soap McTavish. And the missions, my god, the missions. All gillied up, the stealth mission through the radiated fields of Pripyat is widely considered one of the greatest video game levels ever created. It was pure, suspenseful perfection. And let's not forget the shocking moments. The nuke. When you're playing as Sergeant Paul Jackson and the helicopter goes down and you crawl out of the wreckage only to witness a mushroom cloud engulf the city. It was a moment that no one saw coming. It showed that this wasn't just a power fantasy. It was a story with real stakes and consequences. The ending, with the slow-motion bridge shootout and Gaz's heroic last stand, was an emotional gut punch that cemented this campaign as an all-time classic. But the campaign was only half the story. Modern Warfare's multiplayer is the reason the series is the global phenomenon it is today. It introduced so many systems that are now standard in almost every online shooter. Create a class, perks, kill streaks, and the entire prestige system. It all started here. The progression system was so addictive. You were always chasing that next unlock, that next attachment, that next prestige emblem. It was a revolutionary loop that kept millions of players hooked for years. The maps were masterpieces of design. Crash, Crossfire, Backlot, Shipment, these are hallowed grounds for FPS players. The gunplay was crisp, the time to kill was perfect, and the balance was incredible. Call of Duty 4 created the blueprint for modern multiplayer. It was a lightning-in-a-bottle moment that elevated the entire genre. It's not just one of the best Call of Duty games, it's one of the most important and influential video games ever made. Period. And here we are. The number 1 spot. The greatest Call of Duty game ever made. Was there ever any doubt? It has to be Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. This wasn't just a game, it was a cultural event. In 2009, Infinity Ward took the revolutionary formula of COD 4 and injected it with Hollywood-grade adrenaline, turning everything up to 100. The hype was astronomical, and somehow, the final product exceeded it in every single way. It is the undisputed king. The campaign is pure, unadulterated blockbuster insanity from start to finish. The snowmobile chase, the favela foot race, scaling a frozen cliffside, defending Burger Town. Every single mission is an iconic, unforgettable set piece. It continued the story of Task Force 141 and introduced us to one of the most beloved characters in the series, Simon Ghost Riley. And it delivered the most shocking betrayal in video game history. When General Shepard shoots you and Ghost, I don't think I've ever felt so betrayed by a video game character in my life. The multiplayer is, for many, the absolute peak of Call of Duty. It took the perfect foundation of CoD 4 and expanded on it with more weapons, more perks, and more kill streaks. The maps are the stuff of legend. Favela, High-Rise, Terminal, Scrapyard, Rust. This is arguably the greatest collection of multiplayer maps ever assembled in a single game. The gunplay was fast, frantic, and unbelievably fun. It was chaotic, it was often broken, but it was always an absolute blast to play. Let's talk about the arsenal, the ACR, the UMP-45, the Intervention, Akimbo Model 1887s before they were patched. The kill streaks were insane, calling in a Harrier followed by a chopper gunner and then finishing it off with a tactical nuke that ended the game. There has never been a greater feeling of power in an online shooter. It was a sandbox of pure, unadulterated fun. It wasn't always perfectly balanced, but that was part of its charm. It was just an incredible time to be a gamer. And we can't forget Spec Ops. This co-op mode was a massive addition, offering dozens of bite-sized missions that you could tackle with a friend. From stealth operations to all-out horde modes, it provided endless hours of replayability beyond the campaign and multiplayer. Modern Warfare 2 was the complete package. It had the most iconic campaign, the most legendary multiplayer maps, the most fun weapons and kill streaks, and a brilliant co-op mode. It is the definitive Call of Duty experience. It is the GOAT. And that is a wrap. That was our official countdown of the top 10 Call of Duty games ever made. What a ride! From the gritty battlefields of World War II to the futuristic landscapes of 2065, and back again. Reliving all those moments, the epic campaigns, the legendary multiplayer maps, the late nights playing zombies with friends, it just reminds you why this franchise is one of the biggest in the world. I had an absolute blast making this, but I know this list is going to cause some serious debate, and that's exactly what I want. Now the ball is in your court. I gave you my top 10, but I'm dying to know what yours is. Get down in the comments section right now and share your own personal top 10 list. What was your number 1? What game did I criminally underrate? What game did I miss entirely? There are no wrong answers, so let's have a massive discussion about it. And if you enjoyed the video and want to see more insane countdowns like this, do me a huge favor and obliterate that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Thank you all so much for watching. You guys are the absolute best. We put a ton of work into this one, and your support means the world. I read every single comment, so I'm looking forward to seeing your lists. And get ready, because the next countdown is already in the works. And let's just say, it involves a certain blocky world where you can build anything you can imagine. You're not going to want to miss it. Until then, take it easy, and I'll see you in the next video.